What's going on, guys? It is September 29th, 2003. It is Friday, and it is also National Coffee Day, also known as National Starbucks Day. I hope you guys all got a nice fresh cup of joe this morning. I am not a coffee drinker, so I did not have any coffee. However, I know much of America runs on coffee or on Dunkin', but we are not sponsored over here. But I hope you guys got a nice cup of joe to help get your morning kick started and ready to go to have a great Friday. Also, save the Koalas Day. I wanted to put that one out there as I think koalas are very cute, very cuddly, and a very fun animal. So I wanted to really point that one out. But here we are. We are moving forward with this weekend. Last night was Thursday night football. We saw the Detroit Lions take care of business against the Green Bay Packers. Ultimately, the Packers didn't play very well. The score looked a little bit closer towards the end. The Packers had a better second half, but in the first half, I believe it was, the Packers had -1 yard. That might have been just for the first quarter, but they just really couldn't get anything going. The Packers' offensive line was terrible. So the Detroit defensive line really had a heyday, especially Aiden Hutchinson. I thought he played really well. Uh, Jordan Love had some turnover issues. I believe he threw two interceptions. Jared Goff played pretty well, but most importantly, David Montgomery ran the ball really, really, really well for the Lions. The Lions ended up winning by a score of 34-20, so 14 points, but it felt more than that for most of the game throughout. Jordan Love was 23 of 36, 246 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. Aaron Jones came back from injury last night, but he was pretty, he wasn't very, he was just out there. They really couldn't get him going. He had five carries for 18 yards. It's one of those things that they were behind for much of the game, so they didn't really run the football. Meanwhile, for Detroit, Jared Goff, 19 for 28, one touchdown, one interception, 210 yards. That's three straight games with an interception for Goff, so he's kind of going back to the form we expected of him. Last year was a little bit of an outlier for his talent and his ability. We're seeing those turnovers get back to the number that we saw them be when he was in Los Angeles. But the really big thing here is David Montgomery, 32 rushes, 121 yards, two touchdowns. He also caught two passes for 20 yards. He was the real deal. He definitely was the best player in the game last night. Um, it really makes you kind of wonder what Detroit's plan is long term. They took Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round this year in the draft, but they only gave him eight carries for 40 yards. Even when he was healthy and Montgomery was not, he didn't seem to be taking over the offense like they expected either. So, yeah, another Thursday night game that really wasn't that competitive. Green Bay kind of tried to make it interesting late. Quay Walker had a very dumb penalty where he jumped over the offensive line on a field goal block, which kind of hurt their chances. But overall, just Love wasn't very sharp, and that was the big issue there. Moving on, though, to this weekend's best bets, I'm here to make you more moolah. Last week we were fantastic. We are 6-1 with a plus 7.57 units in college football. We are 2-2 minus 0.43 units in the NFL. I'm looking to change that one for you guys this weekend here. I'm feeling a lot more confident with college football than I am with the NFL at the moment. NFL, just, a lot of teams have been really swaying back and forth. You haven't really established an identity with them yet. So it's kind of hard to figure out lines. Especially this weekend, I thought some of the lines were tough to work with. Um, there's a lot of toss-ups, The league seems pretty balanced for right now. Um, you're not quite sure who's good, who's bad. Some good teams seem bad, some bad teams seem good. Just really confusing as we let things play out. So hopefully this is the week I get back on track with that. So without further ado, let's move on to this weekend's best bets. I'm starting with Georgia minus 14 and a half. The Dogs, the number one team in the nation, take on Auburn, and I think this should be a relatively straightforward game for Georgia. Auburn last week lost to A&M, and they only had 200 yards of offense in that game, and that's just not going to get it done against this Georgia defense. Auburn's a team that really likes to run the football. That's kind of their preferred way to move the ball on offense, and the Georgia defense is just too good for that. I expect this game to be something like a 42-9 type game, and I think Georgia should cover 14.5 pretty easily here. They're just the better team. They're not as good as they were last year. That offense isn't flowing as well, but still that defense is just too much for Auburn. That didn't look very good last week. The next one I have is USC Colorado under 74.5. This game's going to start at 10 a.m. in Boulder, which is 9 a.m. for LA time. I expect there to be a lot of sleep in the eyes of the boys out there. I don't think they're going to be ready to go. Um, it's a Colorado game. You know what's legal in Colorado. I just don't fully expect these boys to be woken up when it hits 10 a.m. out there. And, that could be to our benefit. That could be to our disadvantage. If the defense not awake, this game could go over pretty easily. I just expect the offense to not necessarily be awake either. I expect some dropped passes, some bad decisions. I think this game should go under 74.5. Another team that we are going to be riding again this week. We faded them last week and it worked, but they still showed me enough that I want to hop on them this week, and that's going to be Texas State -5.5 against Southern Mississippi. Texas State's offense is just too fast for that Southern Mississippi defense, and quite frankly, the quarterback play for Southern Mississippi of Billy Wiles has not been good enough for them to maintain this game. Texas State really showed me a lot last week, being down 17-0 at halftime against Nevada and coming back to win that game. Despite a slow start, that offense still managed to put up 35 points in the second half. They're pretty explosive. They can make some big plays happen. They're just the better overall team. Southern Miss, I believe, is 1-3 on the year. They're not very good, and the offense is kind of stagnant at times. Texas State should take this game. Another one that I love this weekend, absolutely love Air Force -10. I think this should be a huge game for us. Air Force has real potential to finish this season undefeated. Go look at the rest of their schedule. They're 4-0 right now. They've been playing great football. They're averaging 340 yards per game on the ground. That rushing attack has been unstoppable. And San Diego State, their defense has been really crappy. I mean, they allowed 442 yards per game so far this season. I just think Air Force is going to run it all over them. This game should go over the -10. Air Force could win by 2 touchdowns, maybe three here. They will definitely control the tempo and the ground of this game. And then lastly, I'm going to take South Florida money line here. I just think this game is. I don't know what it is, man. I'm kind of surprised they're the dog against Navy here. Navy's 1-2 on the year. I get that they're at home. But South Florida has the 36th best rushing defense in the nation, allowing 88 yards per game. And that number is actually inflated because they gave up to 203 rushing yards to Alabama. When you think about that, you know, they just, Navy's a team that's always wanted to run the football. Most of those military schools have. The South Florida defense isn't going to let that happen, and this game's going to be all South Florida. I got a money line plus 140. I think that's a great value for South Florida. I think I think it's the wrong team favored here, and I'm very ecstatic that I was able to find that one on the board, and I think it's going to play well. And then moving on, I have two games for the NFL. The first of which will be the Saints -3.5. They play Tampa Bay this week. I think Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield's numbers were a little bit inflated through the first 2 weeks as they beat two winless teams in the Vikings and the Bears. And then when they faced a real competition in the Eagles week 3, we kind of saw what that Buccaneers team was. Um, Buccaneers defense got shredded on the ground against the Eagles. Baker Mayfield didn't play very well, and you look at this Saints team. Their defense, the numbers are all very, very good. It's been one of the best defenses in the league so far. Based on yards allowed, points allowed, conversion percentages, things like that. And I don't know if Derek Carr is going to play yet. I think there's a chance he will, but regardless who the quarterback is for the Saints, they're going to cover -3.5. If it is Jameis Winston, it's a revenge game. We love revenge games over here. Saints -3.5 seems like a good play. And the last one, we're going to stay in the NFC South, and we're going to take the Panthers +4.5. My NFL math tells me the Seattle Seahawks are better than the Minnesota Vikings, and Carolina played a pretty dang good game last week against Seattle. I think they'll play an even better game this week against the Vikings. The Vikings O-line has not done a very good job of protecting Kirk Cousins. And you go look at that Carolina defense, they have a plethora of guys that can get to the quarterback, led by Brian Burns. I believe they have around 11 sacks so far this season. They're just going to get to Kirk, make his day a little bit tough. And plus, you look at the Carolina defense, they've allowed the ninth fewest passing yards per game, and I think that's going to help them shut down Justin Jefferson as best you can. You can never truly eliminate him from a game, but I think they'll be able to do enough where they can, swing the favor a little bit in their tide. I don't think Bryce Young's going to play again this week, but Andy Dalton did a great job last week. He had a great connection with Hayden Hurst and Adam Thielen. It's a revenge game for Thielen. I think the Panthers cover that plus 4.5. And for those that are maybe a little bit more venturesome than I am, you can maybe put a little bit of sprinkle on some Panthers money line, but I'm just going to take the spread here. So those were my best bets for this weekend. To recap, it is Georgia minus 14.5 against Auburn. USC Colorado under 74.5, Texas State minus 5.5, Air Force minus 10, USF money line plus 140, and then in the NFL, Saints minus 3.5, and Panthers plus 4.5. Those will be the plays that will be making you money this weekend, and I hope all you guys ride those. Some other big sports news that I'd like to cover is we saw Damian Lillard finally got traded away from the Portland Trail Blazers. He is going to end up at the Milwaukee Bucks to play alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. The full details of the trade where Damian Lillard goes to Milwaukee, Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, as well as a Bucks 2029 first round pick and Milwaukee's 2028 and 2030 first round pick swaps go to the Blazers. While the Phoenix Suns were able to pick up Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nazir Little, and Keon Johnson. Looking at this trade first from a Bucks perspective, you're definitely going to get a lot worse defensively. I think that's pretty obvious when you move on from Drew Holiday to go to Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's never been a great defensive player, but when you have guys like Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez around him, he's going to be in the best support system in terms of defense that he's ever had in his career. So when you make that trade-off, I think you're going to see a big enough incline offensively with what Damian Lillard can do from the perimeter, especially in a two-man game with Giannis. I think it's going to be very interesting. He's a great shooter, great ball handler, great decision maker. I used to think he was a great leader. This summer made me question that, but I think he'll probably be fine when it comes to Milwaukee. I'm a little bit sad to see that Bud will not be the coach for Milwaukee this year with what Dame's going to be there. I think he'd be a great coach for those three, of Middleton, Antetokounmpo, and Dame. But overall, this is a great move for the Bucks, and it definitely increased their ceiling as you have to be on your best defensive ability to shut down Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo over a 7-game series when it comes to the playoffs. Those are guys that are going to get theirs. Like I said, they have enough dogs defensively to grind out a series as well. The Bucks are going to be a real tough team in the East. Um, when you look at what the Blazers were able to accomplish, they were able to pick up 3 firsts in the very distant future, 2028, 2029, and 2030. I like that they take those shots then. By that time, Dame will be out of the league. Giannis will be older. I wouldn't be shocked to see, guys like Middleton and Brook Lopez out of the league as well. If, Giannis does decide to leave the Bucks, the Bucks could be a very messy team come that far in the future, and those picks could have some good value. Meanwhile, they were able to pick up DeAndre Ayton, which is a huge upgrade over Yusuf Nurkic for me in terms of what they want to do with their center play. They were never really looking to bring in any guards when they have Shaden Sharp, Anthony Simons, and the recently drafted Scoot Henderson. So to pair those three with a relatively young center as well, who needed a new fit, I think that's going to work out really well. And obviously, Drew Holiday is a guy that's going to get flipped for more assets. The Heat might be a team that would be interested in him. They have some young guys like Hami Jaquez and Nikola Jovic that could maybe interest the Blazers. I wouldn't be shocked to see teams like the Celtics interested, depending on what's going on with the 76ers and James Harden. They could be interested in bringing in Drew Holiday. The Clippers had some interest in maybe getting a new point guard. They could be guys in the Drew Holiday race. Maybe Chicago. If they were to flip a Patrick Williams, perhaps to go get a Drew Holiday, that could work out. I expect there to be a lot of interest in Drew Holiday. And then from a Phoenix Sun perspective, they were able to bring in Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nazir Little, and Keon Johnson. Um, they kind of benefit in terms of getting a little bit more depth within their squad. They were kind of thin that level. However, I think Nurkic is a clear downgrade from DeAndre, and he's not nearly as good as a defender. Uh, I just sometimes he's just ever since Nurkic got hurt, he's never really found that game speed back defensively or offensively. He's not rebounding it as well as he usually had. I just am not a very big fan of Nurkic for the contract that he's on, based on how he's come back from his injury. However, guys like Grayson Allen and Nazir Little will be fantastic depth pieces for the Suns. Obviously to go out and get Kevin Durant as well as Bradley Beal, you're going to have to give up a lot of depth to get some stars like that. So they were able to fill in those depth pieces, 4-for-1 type trade, and I think that's a pretty good deal for them. And guys like KD, Booker, Beal, they're going to miss some games due to injuries, some due to rest. So just having those depth pieces, I think, helps them out as a whole. And it was obviously time to move on from DeAndre Ayton as he was fed up in Phoenix, and I think Phoenix was fed up with him. So I think overall that's going to be a very good trade for Phoenix to just improve their season. It might not increase the amount of talent they have on their team, but I think things will flow better for them with that there. So it's going to be interesting to see how Drew Holiday shapes up in the rest of the league, where he's going to end up, and what it will bring back for the Blazers. You could obviously see another three-team situation go down where Drew could go to Miami, Tyler Hero could go to a third team, and other assets go back to Portland. Um, Boston's a team that's out there that could be looking to move on from Malcolm Brogdon. He could have a home elsewhere in a three-team trade. Um, It'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But I'm excited for this trade. I'm happy that Damian Lillard did not go to the Heat. It's been fun to watch the Heat fans complain on Twitter and cry, act like there's some sort of league collusion and going around when in reality they just had a crappy trade offer. Um, and I think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the league evolves with that. But that was kind of the biggest NBA news we've had in a while. Obviously, the season's not quite here yet. We still have some time before that will be here, but I'm excited for that season to play out. I'm excited to see how some of these new look teams will be. We'll have Chris Paul on the Warriors potentially. I'm not totally convinced he won't be moved before the season starts, but that's where he's at now. You have a completely new look Washington Wizard team because Kristaps Porzingis is now in Chicago, or excuse me, is now in Boston. I don't know why I said Chicago. Boston will be a very interesting team to look at. Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis. Um, we don't know where James Harden's going to end up, if he's even going to end up playing with the 76ers or not. Houston's a completely new team. Dylan Brooks came in, Fred Van Vliet came in. They still have guys like Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun. Memphis, will be without uh, Dylan Brooks. They'll be without Tyus Jones, and most importantly, John Morant's going to be suspended for 25 games at the start of the year. They will have Marcus Smart, who kind of fits that grit and grind Grizzlies mold, but they'll definitely be without a lot of pieces that brought them success last year. So it's going to be fun to see what we have for the NBA this upcoming season. Um, but that's kind of that big trade. And without further ado, I probably need to move on to the biggest story in sports. I kind of thought I was going to have a different type segment for this. Earlier in the week, I thought I was going to go poll the nation on this perspective and this topic. I was unfortunately not able to get that done. I had a couple people bail on that. But without further ado, I think it's time I finally touch on the world's biggest subject at the moment. The Chicago Bears knew they were in trouble when she walked in, as the blank space in their secondary allowed Travis Kelce to shake it off into the end zone with style. Justin Fields was saying, "Don't blame me," as his coach Matt Eberflus wondered if he even had his eyes open, and it is making the Chiefs defense feel like a labyrinth. Kansas City all bejeweled with their Super Bowl rings to Chicago's paper rings as they ended up with sweet nothing. Travis Kelce was the man as his wildest dreams were answered as Taylor Swift was at the game. They took off afterwards in the getaway car, and we hope it went all too well. All of those references, Taylor's versions, of course. That's right. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, the most famous couple in the world at the moment, and we don't even know if they're officially a couple. But man, she was rocking it at that Bears Chiefs game. She was fired up to see Travis Kelce score, and just watching him watch her on the big screen, his reaction to her celebration, you can tell he's definitely awestruck and very happy to be in the spot that he is. Um, Taylor Swift has taken over the internet, has taken over the world. Swifties are getting into football. It's absolutely ridiculous seeing what's going down. I mean, the picture of Taylor in the box with her chicken tender and ketchup and ranch or whatever is now becoming a big deal. It's like ketchup and ranch has never been done before, almost type thing. But ultimately, I think it's a very interesting couple. I don't think that it's going to work out. I don't think they have a ton in common. I think he's a little bit more wild than what Taylor's looking for. Um, but then again, I did a little research before I got on here. I am not a Swiftie. I don't know all the pizzazz about Taylor. I don't understand what's going on with her album re-releases and such. But I looked up a list of her ex-boyfriends, and the guys that I recognized include Joe Jonas, Taylor Lautner, John Mayer, Jake Gyllenhaal, Harry Styles, Calvin Harris, Tom Hiddleston, and it's just like I don't know if any of those guys are comparable to Travis Kelce. I mean, it's her first boyfriend in the sports world, and it's a guy that's a little bit of a wild card. Travis Kelce likes to have fun. He's not afraid to, drop a few F bombs here and there. He seems like a guy that loves to have a drink, likes to have fun. He's a guy that's gonna smoke a little bit of pot here and there. He's not very shy about admitting that. And I just think he's a little bit more wild than what Taylor's trying to get into. Uh, but thus far he's been very cute about it, talking about the friendship bracelets, having the getaway car ready after the game. It's been confirmed. I guess, it's never really confirmed until we see her there, but it's been reported maybe that Taylor Swift will be in attendance of the Chiefs Jets game on Sunday night. So at least it sounds like, there's maybe a little bit more there than what we originally thought. Um, there's been some tea going around. Travis Kelce's ex, Maya Benberry, they were together for 5 years. Yet she's now coming out calling Travis a narcissist and a cheater. Um, those are reports that I had not heard before until they came out this week that he was a cheater. I don't necessarily buy into those. Um, they were together for 5 years and they moved on. I think she might be a little bit mad that he moved on to someone more famous and he's more in the spotlight. Taylor Swift is kind of the most desirable woman in the world, based on what the internet would tell you, in terms of what his jersey sales are up 400%. It's what a Taylor Swift relationship will do for you. And most people probably aren't very familiar with the name Maya Benberry, so I could see her being mad about that. Um, it will be interesting to see over time how this relationship works out. And we'll see and maybe learn more of it as we go this weekend with the Chiefs and Jets game. Don't forget, Monday Night Football this week will be the Giants and the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks take that one. The line's been jumping all over the place, so I don't want to make any official predictions on that one quite yet, just because I don't know what the line will end up. But regardless of any of the spread lines, I would still take Seattle money line if you're going to throw something in a parlay. I just don't see a world in which the Giants can get a win there. But I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to listen to this, to watch this. I hope you guys ride my bets this weekend, and I hope they can make you some money. I hope you guys leave a comment down below. I hope you guys subscribe. If you could share this with your family, your friends, someone you think who might be interested in that, maybe some Swifties, if that's your cup of tea, and you think the Swifties are going to be mad at me, let them know. I'd love to interact with Swifties and get them on here and talk to them. I just overall appreciate any support I can get from you guys. Any interaction is good interaction as far as I'm concerned. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. We will be back on either Monday or Tuesday. And I hope you guys stay blessed.